I like to put my hand on my heart and just sort of say, even out loud, I do a lot of talking out loud by myself. And I say like, universe, show me what magic is here today. Show me what magic is in store for me today. And even just putting your hand on your heart and saying that out loud, you can feel the shift.
Let's go.
What if you didn't just love your job? What if love was your job? Welcome back to another episode of This Magic Life. I'm your host, Andrea Koppel. My guest today is Amy Nobile-Messing, a modern-day Cupid who has mastered the art and the heart of online dating. By swiping right in more ways than one, Amy has turned the serendipity of her own online dating love story into a massively lucrative business, helping people of all ages find love in the most magical and unexpected ways. And if you haven't already subscribed to This Magic Life, whether you're watching this on YouTube or binging on Apple or Spotify, make sure to subscribe so you get notified the next time a new episode drops. All the links are in the description. Amy, welcome to This Magic Life. Yay!
Oh, Andrea, I'm so happy to be here. I really am. We have such a beautiful mutual friend in common, and just your energy, even on email, was so infectious. So I'm so excited.
Well, back at you, sister, because truly the amount of energy that I absorbed from your email messages to me was worth the price of admission. It was phenomenal. And yes, big shout out to Bronwyn Salambeni, who introduced us. And I also want to let you know that anyone who starts her day dancing in her underwear is my kind of gal.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I can't even tell you how that shifts the energy of the day. It really does. And especially when you don't want to do it, when you're in a bad mood, that's the time to do it.
Why is that so important? I mean, of course, we all want to be in a good mood, but why is it so important, especially when it comes to love, that you vibrate at a higher energy?
Such a great question, and sort of exactly what I do and how I work. People come to me every day and they ask me, how can I find love? How can I find love? It's outside of me. How do I find it? How do I get it? And my answer is always the same: is you have to become it. And that is a really tough concept for people to put their arms around. And, the first 10 minutes of our day set up the energy for the rest of the day. I always say it's the intersection of humanity and divinity. If you could draw two concentric circles, that in between is where my work is. And so if we can shift our energy from, okay, I'm a human, what do I have to do today? What stresses do I have? Oh my gosh. It's like, if we can sort of interrupt that at the beginning of the day. I call it, I have a 5-5-5 practice that I offer people. And just, if you can start your day off with a 5-minute guided meditation, you write down 5 things you're grateful for, and you write down 5 things you love about yourself, which is really hard for people, believe it or not, and throw in a 3-minute dance, just one song that really gets you going. I promise you, you will start to vibrate from love.
I do many of those practices, but I have to admit, I don't always start my day with them. And I'm gonna take a page from that whatever playbook, and try it out.
Yeah. I mean, we're in that theta state when we first wake up. So I know, listen, I'm guilty of it too. My husband, Brett, and I wake up and we meditate together. But before we do that, we each grab our phones. Of course we do. It's inevitable, right? You just sort of like, oh gosh, what's going on? But then we just after about a half hour, put the phone away. We do a longer meditation now. But again, if you're just beginning, it's as much as you can get. 5 minutes is all it takes. And just starting the day with a bit of gratitude and self-love is really, really important to, kind of begin just to dive in.
You mentioned Brett, and I'm going to want to get to him in a couple minutes because that's where all of this in terms of your latest sort of magical adventure began. But if we could flash back just a bit, was there a clear moment for you, Amy, in your adult life when you realized that, hell yeah, magic and serendipity are real?
It's such a good question. It really is. And if I think, I love that Steve Jobs quote, in retrospect, all the dots connect. When we're in our human lives, it's really hard for us to understand why we're going on this date, why we're walking through this door, why we're not doing something. And in retrospect, the dots do tend to make sense. But I do have this moment when I was 10, my stepdad's dad, my grandpa Joe, passed away, and I was not allowed to go to the funeral. And the night after the funeral, I had, drifted off to sleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night, but I just sat up in bed, and there he was at the foot of my bed, and he smelled the same. He was in his favorite chair, the big gap in his front teeth. I can see him now and I can smell him now actually. And he was the sweetest human. And he just said, I'm okay. I want you to know that I'm okay. And you don't have to worry. And there is something else. And, just keep going. And I remember, I have chills. I remember walking down the stairs for breakfast the next morning. And I said to my stepdad, who I wasn't very close to actually. And I was kind of shy. And I said, listen, Grandpa Joe came to me last night in my dream. And my stepdad turned white and he said, yeah, he came to me too.
Wait, he said that he came to him too?
He did. He visited both of us. Yeah, with very similar messages. And for me, it was sort of the beginning of a knowing that there's something more, that there's something else, that yes, we're humans on this earth moving through life, but there really is a greater purpose. There's a higher self, I guess. And it was just sort of a seed was planted. I was 10. But from that point forward, I wrote in a journal. No one told me to do it. I got, this blank notebook and I just started journaling most days by myself. And at the end of every entry, I would say, God bless the earth. Now, I was not a religious girl. I was not brought up to be religious at all. And looking back at those journals, I realized that was sort of the beginning of my own spirituality.
What about after you went to college and you went to Albion College where you studied communications? Albion is a college in Michigan. Could you have ever predicted, Amy, that one day you would grow up to become a fairy godmother? A dating fairy godmother.
Yes, a fairy love godmother. I have so many nicknames. Modern love witch. They go on and on. It's funny, Andrea. It's no, of course not. I couldn't. I mean, I had so many plot twists in my life, as we all do. But looking back, it was interesting that when you look back at your choices, I could have, stayed in Michigan. All my friends did. Right? I didn't have the means to get out. I didn't have the money, but I knew there was just a knowing that if I chose Albion, it had a New York arts program. That's the reason I chose this tiny little college in the middle of nowhere, because I knew, wow, they've got this program. I've seen kids go and I've seen them go to New York. And so I chose the college so that I could enroll in that program, which I did an internship for NBC my senior year of college. And it sort of, boom, opened up everything. And I graduated. I had $200 in my pocket. During a recession, I went to New York City. I old-fashioned mailed out 300 resumes to PR firms. Yep, O'Dwyer's book of PR firms, and got 3 interviews and got 1 job. And that was it.
Amazing.
But, yeah, so just sort of planting those seeds for yourself. You might not know why. You might be doing something so differently than everybody else. And just having faith in yourself, having faith that it's okay to do things differently. That's what makes you you. It'll lead to really amazing, cool things.
You've said now in a couple of different ways, having faith in yourself and inner knowing is another way of describing this, tuning into your intuition.
Yeah, I think so. And you don't even I have people say to me all the time, but I don't know if I'm spiritual, but I don't know if I have intuition. Maybe I don't have that gene. Maybe I'm just missing it. I feel so human, And the thing is, we all do have intuition. It really is a matter of figuring out how to tune into it. I wish somebody would have taught me just a clearer sort of way to tune in when I was younger. Now I realize, oh my gosh, it's about getting really quiet with myself. It's about, oh my gosh, like synchronicities are everywhere, every day, every moment. Every person you interact with, from the person on the subway to the person in your class, to the person at work, to the person, you really, there are no accidents. And so now I kind of look at life like a spiritual treasure hunt. It's like, okay, I sort of wake up, and once I shake it off and I do my meditation, it's like, I like to put my hand on my heart and just sort of say, even out loud, I do a lot of talking out loud by myself. And I say, like, universe, show me what magic is here today. Show me what magic is in store for me today. And even just putting your hand on your heart and saying that out loud, you can feel the shift. You can feel it.
You said that. I know for a fact the other day I read it on your IG feed, and you shared a beautiful post, Amy, about having put out that call to the universe, and you were in an exercise class. And tell us what you saw tattooed on the woman in front of you. I think it was a woman.
Yeah, gosh, good memory. You're amazing. That's incredible. Yeah, I was lately in my exercise class, I go to the same one nearly every day. And so there has been a lot of magical things happening. And I realize why, that it's just this time where I can't multitask and I'm really quiet and you're just focused. And something else happened today, which I'll share. But yesterday or the day before, I was in my class, and the woman standing right in front of me, and we're on these mega reformers, like right in front of me. On one arm was tattooed these little cherries connected, which is my son's sign. He has a tattoo of that as well. And then on her left arm was a horseshoe. And that's a dear client of mine, an ex-client. That's her sign. And that's all. She only had the two little tattoos. That was it. So I'm standing behind her, and I literally was, lifting weights, and I looked up and mouthed, "Thank you, universe." Oh my gosh. I mean, it's moments like that. Like, that's meant for you. It's not just a coincidence. It's serendipity. It's a sign. It's the universe's language. I don't know if anybody's read Signs by Laura Lynn Jackson. I mean, that book will change your entire life. She really makes sense of how it all works. And the signs are so abundant that we usually dismiss them because we're human. So we're like, you wouldn't even, before I wouldn't even notice that a license plate said 1201, which is my son's birthday, So it really sort of opens your eyes. And once your eyes are open, it becomes delightful. Like, my day walking through New York is like, people probably think I'm nuts because I'm laughing and I'm twirling and I'm like taking pictures of a license. I'm taking pictures of a wall, and once, all my friends have signs, all my clients have signs. So it becomes our language too. And every time you spot something and you feel the connection, you feel the invisible thread. And I think that's something that's really fun to do.
So if we were to pull on that thread, Amy, and we were to go back to 2017, how did pulling on that thread back then lead you to where you are now?
Yeah, gosh, great question and segue here. Yeah, I think the biggest plot twist in my life, I had a couple fairly recently where I was in the throes of writing my latest book. Just when you're comfortable in your own skin, it starts to sag. It's a book about.
The truth.
It's the truth. It's so frustrating, but it's all about sort of hitting that midlife point and making conscious choices. And my writing partner and I were interviewing hundreds of women about the conscious choices they have made, and one after the other, they were sort of talking about marriage and talking about leaving marriages. And at that point, I had been in a 20-year marriage, and there was nothing really wrong, but I just knew. I just had this feeling that I needed to go. And, the signs were there, but it wasn't like, oh, something so obvious that happened. It just snuck up on me like, wait a minute, there's another chapter here. And I'm kind of muting my happiness in this relationship. And so I knew it. I just knew that moment had come, and I left the marriage. And it was, as so many women can attest to, and people, I mean, it's really, really excruciating. And, you've got two preteens who are devastated. And so that was really, really tough. And I left. I was also breaking up with my business partner and best friend of 25 years. I was leaving. I had no idea what I was going to do with my career. And, a bit of a financial mess. And so I was jumping off this cliff, and I really was like, didn't know if I had a parachute. And, doing that was terrifying. But the more terrifying choice, I think, would have been to stay and to continue to mute my happiness.
I relate very much to what you've said, but could you just tease out a bit more, Amy, what you were getting at?
Yeah, I think that we are such a different generation. I think our role models really weren't role models. If I'm looking at my mom and my dad and my stepdad, it's like midlife hits and you hang it up and you just stick with your choices. What's the point, right? And I just sort of instinctively knew that there was something even greater on the other side of this, but I couldn't see it yet. And that's, I guess, the theme we're coming back to is faith. That's the theme, It's like, how can you know? How could you make such a scary choice? Break up a family, like really upset your children, shift their DNA in ways that you just can't know. And because why? You're selfish because you think there's something better, right? And all I knew was I just had that feeling. I just had a feeling like to hang on and go and just see. And if I could become a better version of myself through it, then wow, that would help my kids and that would help the people around me. And so I did it. And there was a big abyss for a while. I'm curious to hear about how you're doing. It's really fresh for you. It's like, I just didn't have a timeline. It was a mess. It was kind of a mess. And, I left, I was feeling very alone. And, with the help of my amazing therapist who sort of got me through it and sort of nudged me and said, you're ready. Like, you're ready. It's okay. You're ready to go. You're ready to date. It's okay.
How long did that take from the time you got divorced to the time you jumped into the online dating pool?
It wasn't as long as I thought it would be because I had spent the couple of years prior sort of like psychically getting ready, kind of spiritually getting ready. I was in therapy without realizing why I was going back into therapy. And I think Nancy, my therapist, knew the whole time where we were headed. So I did feel like, okay, I'm just going to dip my toe in. I know I might not be fully ready, but I just want to see, And I am much like you, I think, sort of this sort of social anthropologist, like nerdy, quasi. And I just love human behavior. And so I just wanted to dip my toe in and see what was out there. And without realizing it, I was about to build the scaffolding for Love Amy, my dating coaching business. I had no idea though at the time.
So how many dates, and by that I mean with different men, did it take to find your Prince Charming?
I know, right? I mean, to be honest, I need to count. Someone just asked me this. I think I did about 3 years of dating in about 8 months. Um, I didn't intend, I really didn't have the end goal. Like I heard all these horror stories about dating, online dating, and I just wanted to see what was up. I wanted to see, okay, let me just explore. Dating is so different right now. I can't, I would be at line in CVS and I'd be like, so beautiful out. And like, no one wanted to talk to me. I would be in, coffee shops and I'm looking around trying to strike up conversations. I mean, it's a different world, And so I joined the apps and I don't even know. I was going on 2, 3, 4 dates a day, some days, not every day, but I had it down. I'd go on mini screener dates that were short and sweet, and I would just stack them up at my favorite coffee shop or at the bar. And I was just, I was keeping a journal and I was cataloging everything. And I was also, unbeknownst to me, I was putting together the 4-month program for my now business, but I didn't know it at the time. So I met Brett not too long after. I mean, I met Brett in 2018.
So how did you know he was it?
I didn't. And I think that's really important. I think especially if you're online dating, the chemistry can work in reverse. I get this all the time. Like I hate the apps. The apps don't work. They're not for me. I'm an in-person dating kind of person, not an app kind of person. Well, here's the deal. The same people, the same cool person you're about to meet at that dinner party in 2 weeks at your friend's house is also on the apps, but you wouldn't swipe on them. And here's why. Because when you're at that dinner party, you're reading their energy, you're feeling their energy. It's like, oof, okay. You're leaning into it in a real way. We're all trying to extract the same kind of energy from a few crappy pictures and a few lines that someone has written that are not very good at. So of course it feels weird. And by the way, that same amazing person at the dinner party, their profile would be terrible. Like it's the Jerry Seinfeld principle. I always say to clients, okay, would you go out to dinner with Jerry Seinfeld? And literally 99% of people go, of course I would. Who wouldn't go out with Jerry? And I'm like, here's a newsflash. You would never swipe on his profile. Think about it. It would be dorky. His pictures would be like, goofy. Like he'd try to be funny, but it wouldn't land. I mean, that's how these profiles are. And so, the reason I say the chemistry can work in reverse, which certainly happened in my case and lots of my clients' cases, is that we're trying to trust ourselves here and you really can't. So you go on this date, you've written the story about this person. They show up. They're nothing like the story you've already played in your head. You're trying to calibrate in real time. They kind of look like their pictures, maybe not. Oh my gosh. And so that blocks your intuition. When you are, shut off from the natural evolution of, connecting with a human. So we have to give ourselves time and grace and space to sort of recalibrate, ask intentional questions. And then by the second date, by the third date, for sure, you should start to be feeling chemistry if you're meant to. But I always tell people it's like, yeah, third date's the deal breaker date. You've got to give it a little time.
Speaking of time, what was that aha moment for you when you realized that your own personal dating experience, the journal that you were keeping for yourself, could actually become the framework for your business to help other people who are seeking their soulmate?
Yeah, it's such a good question. Trying to pinpoint it. All I know is, my friends kept coming, they were watching my dating journey. And they're like, number one, you're having fun. What's going on with that? Number two, like, okay. No one has fun on their dating journey. Number two, you seem like more of yourself, not less. Like you seem like you're leaning into this in a new way, like you're sparkling more. Number three, like you're dating really great, cool people. And what is up? Because I can't seem to crack this code. So I was sitting down with all my really good single friends. I was redoing their profiles. I was, helping them banter. I was, and I still realized though that I could do all that for them. And if they were energetically blocked, it didn't matter. So it's comments like, oh, this isn't for me. it's comments like, "Oh, I'm not good at this. I don't think I have time for this right now." Or, "Gosh, I keep attracting the wrong person, so I'm not sure this is for me." I can tell because it's like comments that are sort of blocking your own, kind of energy. They're blocking your progress. They're blocking your efforts. It's negative, and your set point is pessimism about it. And so I would hear their comments, yet I was like I know these people, these women who are amazing women. I'm like, okay, hold on. And I was starting to unpack it with them. Where does that come from? What, you seem scared to talk about your relationship history on dates. Where's that coming from? So I started to unpack it, and I realized that we're either operating from fear or love. And I now can tell immediately like where someone is. And then part of this process, my program is doing a, revisionist history of what did love look like growing up to you? When did you start to feel unlovable? And where are you scared? What about this scares you? What part of this scares you? So I realized, wow, there is so much more to this than just, oh, let me put together a profile. So I remember starting to help. I was on my like fifth friend that I was helping, and it really worked. Like fifth friend about to meet her person. And I remember sitting on Brett's couch, and he's legitimately the smartest person I've ever met. And I sat on his couch and I was like, I think this is a thing. Like, I really do. I think this is a hole in the marketplace like this. And he looked at me and I was like, and he was like, I think it's effing brilliant and you should do it. And I just kind of went, and I never looked back. I mean, never looked back.
And I can't remember if it was an article I read or a podcast interview that you did. You talked about how you were in the middle of some kind of a manifesting class.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you wrote out your business plan. How important is the manifesting piece? And maybe unpack that a little bit for people who've heard about manifesting, but may not, in fact, appreciate how it works, because it's very much tied to your energy.
Totally. And I think manifesting gets a bad rap at the moment. I think it's a little overplayed. I think the word, especially on social media, it's sort of, all over TikTok, and it seems trendy. I mean, and I'll give a shout out to Jen Mazer, who wrote the book Manifesting Made Easy. I mean, I took my master's, manifesting course with her. Check her out. She's incredible. And manifesting is a 2,000-year-old practice. I mean, Olympic athletes regularly manifest. They envision themselves crossing the finish line, and they feel exactly what that's going to feel like. And neuroscientists know that. They put electrodes on athletes while athletes imagine crossing the finish line, and their brain waves completely shift, right? So it's interesting. Manifesting for me and for my clients is really about really figuring out what your goal is. So in this case, it is in present tense. I am attracting my soulmate. I am living my dream life with my soulmate, which sounds goofy because you're not yet, but the universe hears it in real time. And then you imagine sort of how you would feel. How are you going to feel, right? And I have a client who every morning when she lifts her head, she looks at the empty pillow and says, "Good morning, I love you," like to her soulmate to be. And here's the trick is, what can you do to feel that way now? You cannot wait for it, because then it's outside of you, right? I remember I used to run around the city and I put a wedding playlist together before I had met Brett. I was listening to it throughout New York, my wedding playlist. I wrote him a card before I met him. I wrote him a wedding card that I gave to him recently when we got married. It is really stepping into that wonder and childlike excitement that there is something really amazing around the corner, and it's just a matter of time. And there's many ways to cultivate that feeling, because someone listening is probably going to be like, are you kidding? I'm super stressed. Like, how are you supposed to get there? But it's easier than you think, it's just making a choice that like, I am going to spark joy today. How am I going to do that? Even if it's for a moment, I'm going to do that.
What are some of the most common dating mistakes, Amy, that most of us, I'll put myself in that category because I have been online at various points. I'm not right now, but that those of us make in our profile, the way that we write and curate our online profile?
I know. I'm dying to ask you questions, Andrea, because I want to know like all about
it. Hasn't been lucky. Yet.
See, that's the thing, right? Because it's like, I have this long intake form that I give my clients. And one of the questions is, who in your life is the luckiest person? It's a trick question. We make luck. No one's lucky by chance, right? So that's interesting. So I think the biggest mistake we make is that we try to appeal to the masses. That it is, listen, there's a reason why Instagram is so popular. We want the dopamine hit. It's like heroin, we're programmed for it. So the minute we get on the apps, we're trying to craft a profile that's gonna appeal to everyone. I mean, I give a lot of talks, and a lot of times I'll start out on this topic with my original Bumble photos and my original Bumble profile, which is just so embarrassing. It's so cringeworthy every time.
I doubt it.
Oh, no. It is. I'll show you. It's literally like the worst party girl version of me that you could imagine.
So what made it so cringy as far as you're concerned?
I mean, it's just the pictures were just like, it was obvious that like one was Coachella, one was like a selfie in a bathroom because I thought the lighting was cool. And I was like, oh, like, I mean, honestly, I think like I had one, I was holding a little sign like, 0 fucks given. And I don't know, the whole thing was just so cringy. And it was all one note. It was like, it was what I thought guys wanted to see. And guess what? A lot of guys wanted to see that profile and they liked it, but they weren't the guys I was interested in. So I think, and then, I started out writing almost nothing. And then I would add like just little phrases like, I love to travel. I love yoga. I'm spiritual. It's like, like, please people, of course, And so then I showed the profile that, Brett, swiped on, and it's much more three-dimensional. It's goofy. I mean, one of my 2 truths and a lie is I carry fake teeth in my purse because you never know. And I mean, Kristen Wiig is my spirit animal. I mean, we're all miscast in our dating life. So you want to give people an idea of a snapshot of who you are. And, the quirkiness and the nerdiness and the weirdness that you are trying to hide, most likely is the thing that your people will find endearing.
Yeah. So for our audience, what are a couple of quick fixes or edits that you would recommend that they could make right now to up-level their profile?
So you need 6 pictures. I would say the first 2 are the most important. The lead photo, like right now, the way you look, Andrea, honestly, so sparkly, so beautiful. Like your eyes are just like glowing. It's like you want that first picture, go outside, have your best friend on an iPhone, portrait mode, snap a zillion pictures of you, like shoulders up, laughing, grab a dog if you don't have a stuffed dog, I don't care, but like go out to the park and just take a zillion. And one of those will come out. One of those will be like, oh my God, you're lit up from the inside out. That's your lead photo. Right? Don't do bikini picture, it's really just, so that's a really, really important picture. And then make sure you have, a full length, but not cheesy, like a full length could be from a wedding, or you could pretend, cheat that and wear something cute and have someone take a picture and, cheat a glass of wine or something. You want a picture of it with a couple of friends. You want an action shot. So if you're a tennis player, have your friend take a picture while you're playing tennis, or maybe you're a runner. So, and then in terms of what you write, this is really, really important, is, people spend an average of 3 seconds looking at your profile. So you want 3 prompts that One is my simple pleasures and be really specific, like a blueberry, strawberry smoothie every morning without fail, reading Buddhist, this book, blah, 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 like be really specific. The next one should be key to my heart. And it's, what are the few specific things, making my happiness your own, laughing at episodes of The Office. And then don't be afraid of asking for what you want, stating what you want, excited to find my person and start this chapter, And then the third prompt should be 2 truths and a lie. And that's where you get playful. That's where you can be, your funny, unique self. And grab a friend and do the profile with your best friend who can help you and say, oh, well, remember you won that spelling bee when you were in 3rd grade? So, it's those are the profiles that stand out. And by the way, less people will like you. You will get less likes, and that's okay.
Do you have a favorite story of either matchmaking success or maybe the opposite, like to make all of us feel better, like dating horror story that we can just like, oh, at least my date wasn't as bad as that?
Oh my gosh. I have so many horror stories. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Listen, here's my advice overall is I think what a lot of people do is they go on a slew of bad dates, like bad in quotation marks, and then they sort of throw in the towel and they're like, this isn't for me. I'm not good at this. Dating is not an achievement. It's a journey. And to me, every time I went on a date, even the one where the guy literally couldn't, had like a lazy eye, couldn't look me in the eye and then like called me like every kind of cheerleader. I was like, what is going on? He's like,
you mean called you by the name of different cheerleaders? He
was like, did you try out for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader? Were you a cheerleader in high school? Did you have a nickname? I was literally like, I finally went up to the bartender and I was like, I need a tequila shot immediately. Like, and he was like, I know, I'm so sorry. I'm watching this. It's a train wreck. I was like, you tell my waiter to give me, that was before I did the mini screener dates, but it's okay. Like there's not even a lesson. There's always something to be amused by. I always know a client is going to be successful when they go on a horrific date and they come back and they're still vibrating high. They're like, you know what? That was literally arguably the worst date of my life. And I was laughing on the way home because I was like, wow. So it's just a mindset. It really is,
So Amy, 2 final questions I try to ask all my guests. What can our audience do right now to become more magical, to experience more serendipity? And I'm going to say in their dating lives.
I think it's really interesting. People really separate self-love and self-compassion and put it in a different category aside from their dating lives. It's like, we're such overachievers. We're such people pleasers. We're such perfectionists. And my clients are all rock stars. So they're trying to be really good at this. And so my advice is like, you don't have to be good at this. It's not about that. It's about how much can you love yourself and how much compassion can you give yourself through this process. And that's where the magic starts to happen. That's where the energy starts to shift because you're vibrating differently. You're vibrating higher. And that is magnetic.
Are there favorite books that you might want to throw out there to help us all cultivate more self-love and compassion for ourselves?
Yeah. So there's a great book. I just interviewed her for my podcast, Dr. Shauna Shapiro. She's a neuroscientist. And she wrote a book called Good Morning, I Love You. And that's something you say to yourself every morning. I now do with hand over heart. Good morning, Amy. I love you. And even just saying that every morning has really opened up things for me. And she was an incredible guest to have on. And that book has really shifted a lot for me. So that's a great one. One I talk about all the time is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I don't know if you
I haven't
read that.
No, I think that's one of the ones I ordered as well.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. It's really essentially about we all have a happiness set point and we're upper limiting ourselves constantly. So it's like really pulling the veil back and understanding where you're doing that. And now like Brett will look at me and say like, you're upper limiting. I'm like, oh, you're right. I am. Oh my God. Why not me? Why not that? So that's really important because, depending on how lovable you feel, you're going to limit kind of the vision of the person you have for yourself.
So looking back on your career journey so far, and we didn't get into your amazing, I don't even know if we'd call it first chapter or whatever it was, but as a PR mogul and the 4 best-selling books that you wrote and your jewelry business and all kinds of amazing things you've done pre-Love Amy. What do you think has been the secret to the magic and the serendipity that you've attracted so far?
Gosh, that's a great question. I think it comes from the question, why not me? Why not me? And we haven't talked, my growing up life is like a Lifetime movie, not the holiday kind. It's like even just getting to college, so they're just that question of why not me has really helped me jump off the cliff at various times in my life.
With a parachute. She's been jumping off with a parachute, folks.
Thank God. I had no idea.
Yes.
Turns out there's a big, beautiful parachute there. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm sure bright pink or bright red, inappropriate brand colors, sparkly. But it's all about, I think, going back to really where we began, it's all about the fact that you have managed to tune into your inner knowing, your intuition, and then you've stepped into the unknown or you've leapt into the unknown because that is where the magic happens.
Absolutely. And I think it's funny. That's exactly what I help clients do, not just in dating. It's like, this is your day. Everything's all connected, right? We are all connected. And that is just such a clear message that you're already, one of the exercises I have my clients do is, what magic have you already created? We're so easy to dismiss what, all the big magic moments in our lives. And so to really reconstruct that, take a white piece of paper out right now and write down magic I've created and fill it up, because we all have created amazing things. And there's no reason why love should be any different.
What a beautiful note on which to end. You can find Amy at her website, loveamy.co. And you already heard her mention her wonderful podcast, her soul-enriching podcast, It Only Takes One. Amy, where can our audience find you on social?
Yeah, so it's love.amy.nyc. That is where I am on Instagram. My website is loveamy.co, and that's all my info is there. So thank you this has been really lovely.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And I want to wish you, Brett, and your children many more magical moments to come, Amy.
Thank you, Andrea, so much. Thank you.
Let's go.
Thanks so much for tuning into another episode of This Magic Life. Our mission is to inspire you to stop fearing your future and start getting excited about all the serendipitous and magical opportunities that await you. Make sure to subscribe to This Magic Life on YouTube so you don't miss any new episodes. And for on-the-go listening, give us a follow wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. We absolutely love to get feedback from the This Magic Life community, so make sure to drop us a comment on YouTube or a 5-star review on Apple. And you can always find me on LinkedIn at Andrea Koppel, aka the Career Magic Maker. I can't wait to see you soon.